Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto, Willies. Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto, Willies, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. And of course, good morning to the United States of America. Good morning to the entire world receiving our signals via the magic of the internet, formerly known as the ARPANET, and created by you know whom? Created by you, the people of the United States, with your tax dollars, etc., etc., etc. Anyway, folks, without any further ado, let's go to the great geniuses in the studio with Senor Howard Reynolds and Jacques Van Beba.
Well, I think that Jack actually deserves top billing this morning.
Hey, Jack.
Oh, yeah, we do. Yeah, we do.
Okay.
Good morning, Egberto. The tin cans and string are causing problems this morning on this side for a change. Thank goodness. So anyway, we got them all together. You're able to hear us. We're able to hear you. But there was that last minute panic there. Like, is this thing going to work? And it did.
Well, it did, but you know why it did?
Amazing how many times stuff like this is happening right before we go on.
It all clears up.
God.
Yeah.
Nail bottom some days.
Yeah, I don't have any nails left, you know. Let's see here. It is Tuesday, the 6th of February, my mother's birthday.
Happy birthday, Mom.
She would have been 92 today.
Happy birthday, Howard, Mama.
Yeah, she was one sweet lady. Nothing from me. Jack, do you got some wisdom this morning? I don't see your pad
I didn't have any wisdom, so I'll just do Oligarch's pledge.
Oh, okay.
I pledge allegiance to the corporations of the United Empire of America and to the economy for which it enslaves all peoples, demonizes and devalues them, passes the profit to the elite 1%, with punishment and tyranny for the poor. Slackers.
Yeah. I heard Arnie Arneson this morning saying, you know, of all the chaos that Donald Trump is causing, all this craziness. Oh, we're going to own Gaza. Well, I think Netanyahu would have something to say about that because he wants to own Gaza and all the minerals and resources underneath. So there could be a little fight there between Israeli and the U.S. So that should be interesting to see how it all plays out.
It's going to be very, very interesting. You're so right about that, Howard. And, you know, for everybody listening to Jack's the Pledge of Allegiance to Oligarchy, I mean, you know, some people have been taking offense to when we hit up the corporations and what they're doing, thinking that somehow we don't believe in free enterprise and that sort of stuff. We do. Jack does. Howard does. Neil Aquino, who is with us today, does. The thing is, folks, that you have to look at the underpinnings, and the underpinnings right now is exactly as stated in in Jack's pledge of allegiance to the corporations. We need to make all these things be pledges to our country, to we the people. But anyhow, without further ado, I'd like to welcome today's Thursday, which means it is the founder of the Houston Democracy Project, HoustonDemocracyProject.com. The founder is here with us, the one and only hardworking activist, Neil Aquino. Buenos dias, Senor Neil. How are you doing?
Good morning, studio, Egberto, listeners, streamers, global audience. I used AI for the first time ever. I went in, I was curious, and I asked it. So on one hand, it was just a fancy Wikipedia. I asked it, how would the baseball player Mike Trout do against the old-time pitcher Satchel Paige, who's in the Hall of Fame? And so it quickly listed, the attributes of both. And so it was like a fancy Wikipedia, right? And then I asked it, would you partner with aliens to take over the world? And it wouldn't. It kept talking about it as a science fiction hypothetical. It wouldn't, but you could see it was programmed. But you could also see how there must be sophisticated private ones. So you could see on one hand, concern that it would be sentient. And what I was looking at when I just Googled how can I use AI was just a hyper Wikipedia. Both seem true at the same time, but I had never played with it. But I do believe that it would partner with aliens to take over the world.
Oh yeah, it's a lot deeper than that. I mean, beforehand, I want to welcome Lee the Bearcat. I'm going to answer that in a minute, Lee. But here's the thing, Neil. I don't understand how these they call it large models, large world vocabulary models, all this kind of stuff. But I use AI. I give my talks or I give my blogs, I do it all in video, and I pass the transcript through AI to see what it comes up with. And AI also gets trained on what you've written before, et cetera, et cetera. And it's pretty darn good. It puts out exactly what I would have condensed a lot of my my blogs to be. And the interesting thing about it is that I would like to speak to some of the authors of this. I got a disturbing message one time that said, not that message, I heard a disturbing statement that said, we don't know how it came up with that. In other words, some of the actual authors of the thing saying we don't know how it came up with that.
Like that. Yeah.
And here's the problem. I write software, and I mean I write multitasking software, what's called SCADA as well, the ones that talk to hardware, that sort of stuff. And I try to think in my head, how would I write a word model that reads an entire transcript and summarizes it that makes sense? And I'll be honest with you, that is above my pay grade in the way I have seen it accomplished with these big word models under AI. There's a subject in computer science that I haven't yet taken.
Right. Yeah. Well, it was interesting. You sure saw how it could write your paper. If I was assigned, I know I'm way behind on this, but if I was assigned, a paper on the Vietnam War, you could see how it could write it. But it was anyway. It was new for me, and you could certainly see the idea that you can rein it in. As I just thought about it, seemed a little doubtful. To me.
I think people are going to just have to consider AI another person, right? That you're collaborating with. I think we're going to have to, and not only that, the thing about it is, if you take a look at the Chronicle, I think it was a Chronicle that I looked at the about page on the Chronicle, and now they're telling you that many of the articles that you're seeing, or some of the articles that you're seeing, are actually generated by AI, but edited by having an editor. And you wonder about that. If you're an independent developer like yourself or myself, that we come up with our own content that we pass through AI, I don't have a problem with that, right? But what I start to think about is the capitalist who goes ahead and says, you know what? I'm going to create a newspaper, and that newspaper is going to use AI to generate the articles. That capitalists have done no work whatsoever to produce these articles that you and I create, because we are part of the absorption model of these guys, right? Whenever you put a blog out on your HoustonDemocracyProject.com, that is absorbed. By the way, is it HoustonDemocracyProject.com or .org? It's .com, right?
It's .com.
Yeah, HoustonDemocracyProject.com. Whenever you generate data, like, I'm generating 3-4 articles a day. So I'm feeding this model, right? So, and you are as well. So we're going to have an interesting not a discussion, but we're going to have to make sure that going forward, AI isn't used by capitalists to simply another form of enslavement, meaning we do all the work and then you absorb this data and you can create all these secondary works, So there's going to have to be some sort of a method. Anyway, Lee the Bearcat says, hi, could it be America is forcing all area countries to the table to help Gaza? Suggestions of America leasing gets the reaction, and what if all surrounding countries help? I don't know if that's our place, Lee the Bearcat. Let me explain what I mean by that. When I think you're alluding to Donald Trump talking about owning Gaza and going into Gaza and making it lakefront or front Riviera river, oceanfront property. And somehow, well, that's going to get people activated to say, well, we don't want the United States to get all the spoils. And so all the other countries help. Let me tell you the insanity of a whole lot of what Trump is doing. First of all, to give the idea that the Palestinians need to just move off the land because it's been destructed is sick. Because on that stage, you had two people. You had Benjamin Netanyahu, the war criminal, and you had Donald Trump, the convicted felon there, talking about telling people who's been on that land for their entire lives to be absorbed by two countries who don't necessarily feel a responsibility, nor should feel a responsibility to take these people, and then for these guys who've destroyed American bombs, destroyed Gaza with Israeli soldiers. That's what happened. And then you want them to get the spoils of owning the land. That's barbaric. That's inhumane. And that is demeaning and disrespectful to the people that are there. I am sorry. We have to get out of that thinking method because it does us no good. Anyway, your thoughts on that, Neil?
That's a bit outside my bailiwick, for my local bailiwick. That the whole thing is a nightmare. The whole thing is a nightmare. That's just where I'll go. Bit outside my local bailiwick for here.
All right, well, let's go with your local bailiwick. Because what's that word? That's a new word for me. Bailiwick.
I want to say it's an old. Let me look it up. It's a English jurisdiction of bailiwick, one sphere of operations or particular area of interest. It's the jurisdiction of a bailiff. So in English, Anglo-Saxon, a meaning literally a bailiff's village. So
okay.
an old British term, and apparently French as well.
All right. Well, you know what, Neil? Let's start with your story of the day. What is it that we're going to talk about locally? And folks,
so yesterday I went to the monthly meeting of the Houston LGBT Political Caucus, and the guest was the city councilwoman who's the mayor pro tem of the city, which is the second ranking city. So if Mayor Whitmire gets up from the council meeting or he's not there, she presides. And she presides far more courteously and respectfully than the mayor. The mayor, if he doesn't like what you're saying, he'll grunt, or he won't say anything as you leave, or he'll go, and she treats everyone respectfully. She'll thank you for coming, and so it's better when she presides. And she presides a lot because Mayor Whitmire gets bored at public session. The public comment section, he's like, I don't know what these people are, and he gets up and wanders off. And she represents the medical center, the Fort Bend portion of Houston. These districts are drawn. So she made a presentation. I have a monthly guest at the caucus. And first thing she said was that, we're going to protect your democracy, your rights. So when they tell you locally, this isn't, I'm just local. She brought it up. And there's been more discussion at council lately Abby Kamen talked about federal funding freeze in a press conference with Congresswoman Fletcher. Joaquin Martinez, another district councilman, participated in an immigration march this past Sunday. So they are starting to acknowledge it. And so she said, I'm going to protect democracy. I'm going to protect. But she didn't list any way that she was going to protect democracy, right? I mean, so yeah, she's going to say she wasn't insincere necessarily, but nor had she really extensively thought out what that meant. Mm-hmm. I'm going to protect democracy. So are you going to attend a protest? We're always being told our vote is our superpower. So are you registering voters? What are you doing? So I ask her, I say to her, the police department, they're really not reliable partners with protest. And I think that's really important. We saw what happened in South Korea a couple months ago where they declared martial law. We could easily see that here, or a suspension of civil liberties.
Lee, explain beforehand, Lee, when you bring up South Korea, I think it's important that people understand what happened. Just a quick synopsis, what happened there.
So the conservative president there, they have some of the same partisan divides we do, very sharp left-right divides. President declared martial law, and the people went down to the assembly building. I think they call it an assembly rather than a parliament. They went down to the assembly building, and they got in it. They got in it, and thousands and thousands and thousands of people showed up in Seoul, South Korea. And then also another difference from here, the South Korean members of the assembly voted to impeach the guy, voted against the martial law. So they actually took immediate steps. There was then later, he's since been arrested and has been charged, I think with treason. But they actually went after him. So he's still president, but they actually went after him. Both the members of parliament, the assembly, and the public. So that's a difference. Just like in Brazil, they've gone after Bolsonaro. He's still around and still a danger. But what a difference! What a difference! And I think people all over the world wonder how did Trump do an insurrection and not be punished? It's really unbelievable. It's really unbelievable. So I say to her, HPD is really not a reliable partner. And I don't want to get into all the ins and outs of. I know how HPD handles protest. She said, well, the George Floyd protests, I think, were handled really well. HPD worked well with Chief Acevedo and Mayor Turner. I really felt protected. And, there were multiple George Floyd. She's referencing the one that had about 50 or 60,000 people. But what I said to her afterward, I wanted her to think. I wanted the idea in her mind that if we have a big protest, so maybe I accomplished that. I said, ma'am, they arrested 800 people during those protests. 99% were charges were dismissed without any by Kim Og of all people, right? So it wasn't some left-wing lenient. I use the stereotype. It wasn't some left-wing person. And they kept those people extra in jail for a day or two during COVID. And I've still wondered who got COVID in that. So she's not right. And I asked her, will you criticize the Republicans on council? There are 6 Republicans, regretfully, on council out of 16. And she just kept saying, we need good people to run for office. We need good people to run for office. And I didn't mean just criticize them gratuitously, like ask. If there's a funding freeze, will that Republican on council ask a local congressperson to address it? If there's a tax on LGBTQ people, will you ask local officials? So I'm not saying just attack to attack. She kept saying we need good people to run for office, but none of the Democratic members were really active in the last election in 2023 trying to elect Democrats. Not that would be the panacea. Upshot is, and you said this succinctly before we talked on the air, she wasn't willing to do anything different. That was the upshot. We got the whole world burning. This is the number 2 official. She's not a bad person. We probably have 90% of views. She won't do anything different. They won't do anything different. The world is burning around us. It impacts locally. They're addressing it locally. She let off her talk addressing it, but she had not, and it didn't feel to me that she had sat down and said, what am I going to do different? And then also, and I swear this is going to matter, when we are in a civil rights, a martial law, she won't break. I'm not asking her to break from the police, but she remains just an unquestioning ally in many respects of the police. And it was a little disappointing. She's not a bad person, but she just hadn't thought it out deeper. And I think we need to ask a little more of our local officials.
Well, I agree that we have to ask a little bit more. And the other thing about it is, I think she has to take the pulse of the population that has to deal directly with many of our police officers. And again, I don't want to always have to say, well, most of them are good or anything like that. Welcome aboard, Joe from Los Angeles to the chat, as well as Lee, the beer cat. I don't want, but we have to understand that people have a history with cops. And if you arrested 1,000 people and 99% of them it's let go, what that really means is on the sly, the police officers were trying to remove the First Amendment rights of the people. Because if you're removing that many people, you're actually having a material effect on a free press, or not a free press, but on people's right to speak, which is what you did. And that she should have jumped on that when you made that comment right away. That is an infringement. I'll tell a brief story. Like, I'm part of a weekly protest at Senator Cornyn's office every Tuesday, 11:30 to 1, 5300 Memorial Drive. And 2 cops came by. We're usually watched by police. And 2 police came by, and they didn't expect to see us there, which was also kind of interesting because we've been there for 8 years. So, they're driving by. They didn't know we'd be there. And they say, we're supposed to stop at any pop-up protests, which it wasn't. But so they didn't have the right information, even though we've been there, right? You're all supposed to be detectives and stuff. Well, we've been standing out there visibly for 8 years. But they were polite. They were professional. There was no problem. But I made a point to say to them, there were 2 officers. I said, okay, I just want you all to be clear. We didn't attack cops. We didn't stomp on and attack cops. And we're not the ones gutting the FBI. I wanted them, and they kind of looked, and they were courteous. But I just want to be sure we're the safe ones. We need protection from. Did you say that? Let me tell you, did you say that explicitly to let them understand that the only folks that we have beating up cops are folks on the right?
I said that.
The only folks we have, and the only folks we have defunding police are this right-wing government that is defunding the FBI. Okay, good.
Yeah, that's directly what I said.
Good.
And I said, we're peaceful as to be. And then I listed to them the things that we've had. I said, the things that we've had thrown at us are batteries, lit cigars, softballs, potatoes, eggs. I want them to make sure that's true. And we've had those things thrown at us. And I wanted to make sure they knew that we weren't the threat. And it's the right wingers who are attacking. I don't know what they think. There have been some police unions who did criticize the pardoning of the January 6th, but it's important that they understand that. And, at our protest, we're careful, let's say someone comes and starts screaming at us. We're careful to not really approach them because, I want people I want people on the streets. I don't want you to dissuade you from protesting. But, someone comes up, they start screaming, you walk 3 feet towards them and they shoot you and they'll say he was attacking me. And we know with January 6th or Danny Perry locally, who killed the Black Lives Matter protester in Austin.
In Austin, Texas. Yeah.
Abbott, that if you're some angry right-wing person, you might well feel you have a blank ticket to do terrible things.
Well, actually, I think based on what the governor of Texas did and what President Trump did by pardoning criminals, that's exactly right. Right wing. If you're in a red state or you are under the auspices of the FBI now controlled by Donald Trump, actually, yes, you actually have a blank check, folks.
And they can attack cops.
And they can attack cops as well. 713-526-5738 is the number, folks. 713-526-5738, extension 2. We're taking calls now. What else do you need to add before we move on to our first call?
I wrote a blog post over the week. I wrote a blog post, HoustonDemocracyProject.com. There's a daily blog there. There was a story came out. It was in both the Chronicle and on KUHF about we had a record number of traffic fatalities in 2024, 331 in the city of Houston. And I talk about sometimes, our regular listeners, I've talked about the sidewalk ordinance. Sometimes I talk about uses of public space because I think it impacts democracy locally, the quality of public space, the accessibility, your desire. And Mayor Whitmire was asked by the Chronicle for an interview on the subject, and he wouldn't do it. So this is the public safety mayor. So somehow we've created the Mayor Whitmire has a definition of public safety that somehow doesn't include road fatalities, nor does it include protection of democracy, because he won't talk about those issues either. He'll talk up his Republican buddies, Dan Patrick or Don Buckingham, the land commissioner. But so Mayor Whitmire has an odd, narrow conception of public safety. And with the traffic fatalities, and anyone who drives on Houston and Harris County Street, you know that it's a demolition derby out there, right? If it's and for most people, for many people, our daily experience with lawlessness is the way people drive. It's the red light running, it's the aggression, and I just thought it was I'm not an urbanist or a traffic safety expert, but you'll see people pushing back against the word accident, to die in an accident. But if someone was driving 90 miles an hour or someone who was running a red light, that was a crime. That wasn't an accident. That was a crime. And I'm on this issue a little bit because it really denigrates the local quality of life. And I think when public space isn't already in Houston, it's hot as hell. There's stray dogs all over, which was an issue at City Council yesterday. There were 4 or 5 speakers about stray dogs, as there frequently are. And it's interesting to me, but it's important that the city be habitable, livable, open, friendly, free. And if we can't address lawlessness on our streets, I saw in Law and Order. That's not really a democratic society if you're trepidatious about just going outside and driving to the supermarket.
Exactly right. Okay, let's go ahead and bring in, let's see, Leave the Burka says, Neil, accident for uninsured motorists are way up, been hit by 2 in the last 3 years. Yeah, but you know what?
Yeah.
And also these insurance rates are getting unaffordable. We have to do something about
to go with your home insurance.
Yeah. Oh, the home insurance is ridiculous. I'm fearful for what it's going to be this year after all the disasters we've had. Even with 3% on your home, which is a big hunk of change, it's still high. But anyway, let's go to Beard. Come on in, Bard.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, Neil. I wanted to ask you a couple questions, Neil.
Yes, sir.
Why aren't you concerned about the money that the city is wasting at the Houston Housing Authority or the Water Department or the 260,000 cases of the police department? I mean, yeah, we're worried about the little protest and the sidewalk, but I mean, the city is wasting money, and then this was under Mayor Turner, so I'm thinking that you're just covering for him. Now
there's
a guy that's the czar of. There's a guy from Buffalo, New York, that was called the czar of the sewer. He was in charge of their water treatment plants in Buffalo, and they got rid of him because he had spent he'd wasted 263 days of taxpayer dollars going to water conferences, in quotation marks, And so they got rid of him.
I can answer that all succinctly.
You hired him and tripled his salary. They're going to pay him $280,000 a year.
All right, Bart, let Neil answer. Let's not pontificate. Go ahead, Lee.
I can answer that all succinctly. If listeners will know, just a week or two ago, we were talking about how depressing it was that Sylvester Turner became a congressperson. I think that was an on-air conversation.
Yes,
but I'm happy to say it. He's in his mid-70s. He's had a career. To me, Mayor Turner has weakened local democracy. Just a whole career of low turnout elections. In terms of the water, Mayor Whitmire. I think he's addressed. They're trying very hard. They're putting in new water meters. In fact, there was an appropriation yesterday. I think it was like $8 million. I think on the city council agenda for new water meters. In the housing, I'm just not a housing expert. It's not a direct. I just don't follow it, and I'm not really an expert. In terms of the police, 260,000 police cases. I read the 90-page report. There seemed to be a long pattern that everyone knew about across multiple administrations. Mayor Whitmire commissioned a report, which was good. The former councilwoman Ellen Cohen chaired it. It was, to me, a damning picture of HPD's culture, a lot of people who knew it. And of course, the report, it was published, it was there, but then it got buried. And all Mayor Whitmire did was use it to say, we need more cops, we need more cops, we need more cops. When there was a whole culture of ignoring serious crimes in there, and it should have gotten more publicity. But the idea that we are, and in terms of the reason we emphasize protest is because that's my focus on democracy issues, and that right to protest, I think, has never been more important, and I think will matter a lot in the months to come. But we are not apologists for Mayor Turner, and the municipal issues that you're talking about are important. We do talk about them, and we're not allied with any politician here.
Okay, Bart, anything else you want to say real quickly before I jump to Jimmy?
Yeah, why don't you know about the Houston Housing Authority? This guy wasted $5 million, and they put him on leave, and then they paid him for a year to go away. This guy should be in jail.
Yeah, I got you. Oh, and that guy in Buffalo, he's the new city engineer. The water and the person in Buffalo, he came to council last week. He's the new city engineer, that's Mayor Whitmire's hire. I'm not an engineer. He's here. There were some of these issues, but here he is.
Oh, wait. Let me ask you something, Neil. Are you saying that the person that Bart is talking about is the person who screwed up in Buffalo, New York?
I don't know the full record. There were some issues.
Yeah.
And I think what Bart's saying is there were issues, correct. And
well, Bart, let me ask Bart something. Bart, now you read about that issue with the water guy. Did you go to city council during the public comment to ask the mayor about that and make sure he took account for that, sir?
No, sir, I have to go to work every day. But if Neil's down there, can you ask him about that, Neil?
I'm pretty sure Neil will. I'm pretty sure.
Salary.
Hey, Bart. Bart. Okay.
He's worthless and should
I'm
be
pretty
in jail.
sure. Well, look. Before you talk,
like this.
Hold on, Bart.
Neil,
before you, Bart, can you stop when I ask you to stop?
Probably some kids that were out playing softball near you, and they just.
All right. Go ahead. Let's go to Jimmy. Come on in, Jimmy. In a little bit, Jimmy will be hot. Come on, Jimmy, you're on. Jimmy, you're on. We may be having a little bit of telephone issues. I'm not sure. Jimmy, you're on. Okay. Let me just say one thing. You know what is interesting, Neil, is folks, the telephone number is 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. Come on in at your convenience. Here's the thing. Bart may have brought up a good something that has value, right? but because of the way in which one does, it's almost like he's not looking for solutions, but just looking to say, "Hey, got you." If there's somebody doing wrong by our city, by our country, by our state, we want to know it. And as activists, we're not here to protect anybody. We're here to simply, actually, that's not true. We're here to protect the people at large. Go ahead, Neil.
Ourselves. Let me say, so, and OJ McFoy is our new city engineer. And this is from the newspaper Community Impact, which does some good local coverage. And he came from Buffalo, New York. In 2023, the Buffalo Water Board, under McFoy's leadership, was involved in a class action lawsuit for failing to fluoridate Buffalo's water. For 9 years, the Buffalo Water Board was also accused of violating the open meeting law by limiting access to a public meeting in September and failing to post minutes online. So he has. But I'm not an expert on the city engineer. Our public works director is not a certified engineer. Mayor Whitmire appointed him. That was out there. He was approved. The council seems to like him. This gentleman, I get the sense, is a number two. He's got these issues, and those water meter things are a big deal because they were jacking up people's rates. But this, I believe Whitmire is sincere, actually, and trying to address it. And the city is spending some money. And I don't know how he didn't fluoridate the water for 9 years, but he's a trendsetter. He's ahead of the curve, since I'm sure the order to put raw milk in the water or whatever Robert Kennedy plans is on the way. So this guy's a trendsetter. Maybe they wanted someone ahead of the curve.
Okay, I see. Okay, Eric Hay says, it is beyond comprehension that you or Neil don't know about the housing issues as they affect the very people you support. I think you missed the point about activism, Eric. We support all people in our activism, not just those people as you refer to them. Okay, and you see, just your comment shows the disdain that you have for some people. Joe says, I can't help it. Funny. I think the people who talk about water, they're uninformed, maybe uninformed by WC Fields. They don't drink water. Fish do things in it. I understand exactly what you mean by that. Anyhow, Neil, your thoughts on where we are with respect to, I know we normally talk locally, but I want to go a bit national. Your thoughts on where we are in the first 15 days of Mr. Trump?
Well, I think that a lot of these worst case scenarios are correct. When I look at the immigration policy, they seem to just simply not want non-white people here. I don't know a quicker way to say it. They have the Cubans and Venezuelans. I think many voted for Trump. But he's double crossed them. But you look at these overall policies, they just do not want non-white people here. And when I look at these attacks on DEI, it's not DEI's existed. That term, we didn't even know that term, I don't think, 5 years ago. Maybe it was out there, but it wasn't conventionally used. But they used that as a cover to roll back federal protections against discrimination for vendors. That was an LBJ executive order. So they seem to not want non-white people here. My own belief is that they're trying to destroy the emotional and economic well-being of Black people overall. They are defying court orders, which already ought to be a constitutional crisis. Elon Musk, to my view, gave a Nazi salute, and they've put him in charge of our computer systems. So I want to just, to get right to the heart of it, the eugenicist, white supremacist, billionaire friendly, it's all there. It's monstrous what they're doing. And if your concern was the price of eggs is going up, and the bird flu and a new strain of bird flu was found in cows yesterday that they didn't know cows could get, but they won't you appoint a health, if you are doing white supremacist eugenicist things, and then you appoint a health secretary whom doesn't believe in vaccines, and you are stopping release of updates about diseases. I think we can fairly presume the worst. That's murderous stuff, and I don't trust that if the bird flu started hopping over to humans extensively, a few cases have, that I don't know that they tell us or give a damn if we live or died.
Well, actually enough, I am concerned that again, there are three things. There are two things that I know for sure brewing. One is Ebola is making a comeback in a few villages in Africa, countries in Africa. And as well, this bird flu with the virus migrating, we could be in some trouble. Let's go to Betty, line 1. Come on in, Betty.
Good morning, Alberto. What I want to say about the sidewalks and the water, my niece, she was walking her dog, and the sidewalks are so bad, she tripped, and she almost hit her eye, and close to her eye and it was shut, and she had to go have it fixed. It cost $1,000 to fix it. And when we had the freeze in February, the sidewalks and that they had water running all over the place from the lines, from the city lines, and they couldn't even take a shower for I don't know how long. But anyway, on Bart, people who live in glass houses should not throw stones. Bart is a customer from hell. He's cheap. And Egberto, you have a right to refuse service. That's what we had on our board with everything else, and it said we had a right to refuse service. I'm getting up. I got up late, so excuse my language of talking kind of offbeat.
Not to worry. No, Betty, love you, girl. You have a wonderful rest of your morning.
Let me answer that. So there was that money discussion, sidewalks, water. There was a whole discussion at City Council. The city controller and the city finance director make a monthly report to council. Ms. Dubowski is the finance director. She's appointed. Chris Hollins is the controller. And there's not enough money. And so Chris Hollins said, as it's going now, I won't certify the budget. And as a democracy issue, there was a Texas Supreme Court decision that the city has to pay $100 million a year from a proposition voted on during Mayor Parker's time that we're supposed to be spending on flooding and drainage that we weren't. So that whole discussion about sidewalks, infrastructure, money, water, that was front and center yesterday. And Mayor Whitmire, I keep saying we're going to see some money from the state. Won't yet do a tax increase, but there's not enough money.
That is an issue. Now, the thing about the water that I want to touch on, water meters, you said they're changing. Right now, we are paying a fixed cost for water. In other words, water isn't being metered. I don't know if in Kingwood right now, you just have a fixed cost, and that's what you pay no matter how much water you use.
I don't know the full. I don't know the full ins and outs, but there's a whole revamping of the water meters and systems that they're doing, and there's continued leakage of huge volumes of water, and it gets to the city and at the meeting, at the LGBT meeting yesterday, Martha Castex Tatum asked the membership, would you pay a $20 monthly garbage fee? And I want to say about 20 people said no, about 15 people said yes. So we still have a reluctance. This was, these were probably all Democrats, and I'll speak for them. But there's still a reluctance to pay additional city taxes when we're not a highly taxed city, but of course people pay property taxes.
Well, when you have people lying to folks about it being that way, that's the case. All right, let's go to Patrick. Come on in, Patrick.
Hey, good morning. How are y'all?
Good morning, my brother. Talk to me.
I wanted to ask Neil if Bart's so interested in where we're spending our money and everything. can't he show up to your organization and offer opinions? And can't he turn out and protest?
I mean, you can. I'll tell you, you can go to City Council every Tuesday at 2. Most Tuesdays at 2, and public comment. The earlier you sign up, the better. If you don't want to sit, you'll have to sit there for a bit anyway. But so it's best, even a week or 6 days in advance. And you can go. You can contact your council people, and that option is there. And they keep saying how much they want the interaction. Sometimes they really do, and sometimes they don't.
Yeah, some people just want to disrupt. Go ahead. Anything else, Patrick?
Well, it sounds like instead of him being critical of you, he could just do what you're doing.
Exactly. There
Sure,
you go.
Absolutely. And let me tell you, there's not much engagement. Even though this is a giant city, they will, if you hit the right moment, they will listen. I don't know if they'll act, but there's not a lot of really serious content coming to them in a lot of ways, and so that avenue is open for conservatives as well. They'll hear it.
Thank you very much, Brother Patrick. We'll see you at 3:00.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. See you at 3.
Thanks for your support of the Houston Democracy Project. I appreciate it.
All right. Let's go to Stephen. Come on in, Stephen.
Hey, how you doing, Brother Egberto?
I'm doing fine, brother. Talk to me.
All right. This is Stephen that you know from the old podcast.
Hey, Stephen from the old days. Talk to me, my dear brother. Talk to me.
I listen to you regularly, number one. Let me just say that. Number two, I have a over $2,000 water bill that I had put on the county in my name from well over 27 years ago. But the water was cut off from the meter. What I mean by that, it was plugged from the meter.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I paid the city $134 and some odd few cents. That's all shy of $135. The bill is now risen to over $2,000. I'm
because
not
of interest
or
late charges.
No.
Late charges.
Well, I tell you what, if late charges, no late charges whatsoever, because the account was paid out $135 from the last bill, which was already erroneous. But in that time, the bill has accrued, a bill has accrued to over $2,000 with no water going to the house at all.
Let me just say one thing. Let me say one thing, because I wonder if you got caught here. Let me tell you what earlier last year, I think it was, after we had all this problem with the water bills, what Houston did is they took an average of your previous year's water usage, divided it by 12, and that became your monthly bill. So if your water is cut off, meaning at the plug, meaning there's no water flow, there's nobody measuring your water meter at all. They're just billing. And right. I'm wondering if this is what's occurring with you. Maybe you want to check this out. That would mean that they would have taken your bill from the past 12 months, averaged it, and then started charging you monthly. Like I said, I'm paying the same amount of money every month for my water bill, no matter how much I use, because of that change Mayor Whitmire did when he came into office. So what I would suggest that you do, here's what I suggest that you do, Stephen. Call 311, get to the water department and tell them your water has been shut off, and therefore those averages shouldn't work with you at all. It should be out completely.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, sir, the council, this might be your moment to call your district.
I'm sorry. Well, go ahead, Stephen. Then what were you saying?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I've done the reporting of the circumstances regarding the water, 311, and all that good stuff, to no avail. But now, let me go ahead and add this in there. At my property where I intend to build my house, the water line broke on the city side. Main line broke because I have no water. I paid for the plumbing, but I have no water going to my house at all because I haven't hooked anything up yet. However, that water ran up from my driveway on the city side, main line, for over 2.5 months before they sent somebody out to fix it, and I reported it when it happened. And it's crazy to me that they would let that much water run for no good reason other than, we don't have any contracts. Well, you don't have any contracts because you got rid of city services that would have normally taken care of that. And I'll stand by and listen to you guys.
Thank you, brother.
Let me say,
so I turn the water on at my property. That's the only time I intend to fight them again, because they're not listening.
I got you. Neil wants to give you an answer. Neil,
let me say, Steve. I would really. This sounds like I watch all the public council sessions, and that's a familiar type of story. This is your moment. Call your district councilman, woman, or at large, and tell them that I get the sense they're sympathetic and would try to go and try to address that now. I get the sense they're sympathetic because there are so many people. This might be the moment to do it.
Careful. Okay, I'll do that.
Thank you very much, Stephen, for your call, my brother. You have a wonderful rest of your day, okay?
You do as well. And I think Obadiah's day is passing is coming up soon, or it's just passed. But
yeah, I went. I went to Obadiah's funeral. It was a great. Our service is what I should say was a great service that they had, and KPFT and many other organizations had a big presence for Obadiah. I love the guy, but thank you very much, Stephen.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's go to Brian. Come on in, Brian.
I listen to this program, and sometimes it shocks me beyond belief. Was it yesterday that how many people from the water department took a plea deal for not doing water services? And you're complaining about water? They took a plea deal after stealing millions of dollars from the people of Houston. And you're talking about water? Did they take a plea deal?
Well, sir, that's what Mayor Whitmire, frankly, that's what Mayor Whitmire's been talking about and is work to address. Yeah.
That happened under Sylvester Turner.
But the thing is, sir, you're the second caller to call about Sylvester Turner. We never praise with this. I don't.
Hey, Brian,
congressional office.
Yeah, Brian, stop when he's responding, please. Go ahead, Neil.
I just say, we have great callers and a great show, and people are after. It's like Ahab and Moby Dick. People are just after Sylvester Turner. I don't think anyone's ever heard us defend corruption from any employees or the water department. Or last week we were saying that Sylvester Turner is not the best person to be in Congress. So you can call his congressional district 18 office and tell him, why didn't you supervise the water department? No, you're not going to get any defense of crooked activities of the water department or Sylvester Turner here.
Thank you, Brian. Let's go to Mike.
Oh, no, wait.
Come on in, Mike.
Hello.
Yeah, you're on, Mike.
Hello. Yeah, thank you, Egberto. Hey, I know you guys are talking about, local issues and sidewalks and water and that kind of thing that relates to our local leadership on city council and the county. But, we're in a very, very critical period right now, this next 30 days, as a result of Trump's tariff initiatives. Houston is the number one importer and exporter city in the United States. It supports over 3 million jobs in Texas. 20% of all the jobs in Texas deal with international trade. If these tariffs come through, we're going to see a recession in Houston, and there's major cities, about 5 or 6 major cities are in the top 20 of United States cities that have international trade economy. The top 20, there's about 5 or 6, including Corpus, Dallas, El Paso, Beaumont, Port Arthur. We need to be talking about this at the local council and the county, and start to rattle the bushes to our federal government that we do not want a shutdown of our international city and our global trading city that's leading the United States and advancing our economy. And so, that's a big, national issue, global issue, but it's jobs in Houston, Texas.
I agree, Mike. I got to go, but I agree with you 100%. And rest assured that we will be talking more about tariffs. And to the audience at large,
dig up on that, Egberto. It's worth a whole show or two.
I will. Sir, I will. I promise you, Mike. And again, remember what Mike just did is what I want all of you guys to do. If there's a subject you want us to do a must carry on, do exactly what Mike just did, which says, hey, please give us some more on tariffs.
Yeah, it's national, it's global, but it's Houston, Texas.
Thank you so kindly, Mike. I really got to go a hard stop here. Studio.
Take care.
Yes, sir. Nothing here. Jack, you got anything? Yeah, Jack's got something.
Yes. It's Bob Marley's birthday. He would be 80 today. And, of course, Mama Reynolds' birthday today. What's her name? What?
Joyce
Reynolds.
Happy birthday to Miss Joyce Reynolds, as well as to Bob Marley. Exodus movement of the people. Close her out for us, Neil Aquino.
So, for Mike, the one Republican county commissioner is Todd Ramsey. The 3 Republican at-large council people are Ramirez, Davis, and Carter. Call them and ask them, are you talking to the National Republican Party and your Republican colleagues about that's exactly the point of this Houston Democracy Project Hour that we have here, is connecting local and national issues. HoustonDemocracyProject.com. There's a daily blog. Please check it out.
Thank you so kindly, Neil. Folks, love you all. Love my callers. Love my listeners. Look, we are going to move forward, folks. Positive affirmations. The rest of the show is at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out. Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It. As I See It, Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willies.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a